In this video, we'll take a look at Kevin Na's golf swing. Kevin just had a great week out at the Sony Open, getting his 5th win. So let's take a look and see what makes his golf game so good, both from the full swing perspective and also short game. So setup-wise, we can see here a very classic-looking setup position, and anyone who's followed Kevin's career knows just what a great player he's been since his teenage years. A phenom, a true great junior golfer from Southern California. As he gets his club going up the plane, just a beautiful swing, very simple, not ultra powerful, but very effective. And as the club comes up the plane, hands and the club right on the plane going up. And he gets to the top, like a lot of players today, a lower arm swing than we used to see for a lot of players, getting that left arm right across sort of the shoulder line. And, you know, a lot of players from even not too long ago would have the club much higher up in this area, but today's version of the swing is much more low, and I think that fits a lot of players. It's just simpler golf swing to create day in and day out. Creates a very good flat left wrist position and also a very good club face position at the top. As he starts down, the club does shallow beautifully, and he comes right back down close to the original plane. As you can see, the right forearm and the hands very close to the plane. And if anything, he gets sort of stuck sometimes with the club traveling too much inside out, which creates pushes and hooks. He does hit shots that tend to kind of travel over here to the right sometimes with his approach shots. And of course, he's going to hook some drives. He's less dynamic than some players. If you see him at impact, not nearly as open. You see the hip rotation here, not nearly as open here, and certainly not nearly as open with the shoulders as a lot of players as well. And that will mean that the hands will be a little more active through the hitting area, which would make him less consistent perhaps. But because the angles are so good from the plane's perspective, when his timing's on, he's going to be hitting some beautiful shots. Taking a look now at this driver swing, we will see some similar lines. Certainly the club working right up the plane. Club face, what I would say not open or closed, fairly neutral at this point. And then as the club works its way up, same good position at the top, left arm along the shoulder plane, and a little more dynamic with the driver as he's trying to create more power. You'll see that lower body kicking in a little earlier, like you see there, and you can really see how the hips, legs, lower body initiating the move there. And if you're a player who's trying to get your legs going, make sure that you do have some flex in your legs when you start your downswing. Do not try to start your downswing and get the hips going with legs that are straight or taller. You won't work right. You'll feel like you're spinning, but you won't have any power. So you can see he's in the legs there, and that means the arms are not pulling too hard coming down. Plane-wise with the driver, he's slightly out where I would want to see him as a coach. I would want to see him a little closer into this plane here. Not saying the camera angle is dead on, but it looks a little too far away. I do love the club face position. I think it's excellent. And the wrist position, flat, excellent as well. But basically, when the hands ride off of the plane too far, can be trouble, certainly for the irons. Driver can be a beautiful way to hit draws. But here's that player coming in. We talked about him not being as open in the other segment of the video, and that means there's more flips. So in the face is very square at impact. Then you'll see a big roll over here going into the finish. Compared to a lot of the players we've seen in the other videos, much more handsy through the bottom. But like we've said, if you have a more closed club face and you're rotating your body open, you don't need to use the arms so much. He's less open, like the way a lot of us play. We're forced to use the hands a little bit more, which can lead to inconsistencies right and left. With Kevin Na's game, he's not a power player. He knows that certain golf courses will fit him better than others, so he really relies on the short game for scoring, and his putting and chipping, since as a junior golfer, just amazing. Look at some of the lines we've talked about in some other videos where the shaft of the putter is matching right up with the forearms. Very classic there. Means the putter fits him well. The right length, the right lie, and classic setup, eyes basically right over the golf ball. And so taking care of these fundamentals really makes his stroke easier to work on and keep it working well day in and day out. From this view, looking at the face-on view, a little more old school, to be quite honest. A little more sort of the flare in the elbows. Used to see that more back in the 80s, 90s. And more sort of a rocking action. And so here's a player that's really using a pendulum style. Not my favorite, but he's great with it. He uses a pendulum style where he gets a sense of moving the shoulders and sort of all of this together. And keeps it very solid. His hands are very calm. And if you keep this pendulum style working well with the hands very calm with a light grip pressure, obviously it works well, but a lot of people have a hard time because it creates a lot of tension and their hands grip the club too tight to make this stroke really work consistently day in and day out. If we look at a little pitch shot here, and I have to tell you, this guy hits pitch shots and chip shots, so many of them inside 2 feet. It just is amazing to watch. And he does have excellent technique. His footwork, very good. Feet very flat to the ground, very calm. He's able to get the club working up and down the shaft plane beautifully. You can see no divot, using the bounce of the club, sliding it on the turf. And like I said, very, very quiet feet. If your feet are dancing around when you're pitching and chipping, it's very tough to be consistent. So try to keep those feet calm. Some of the things that might be tougher for someone else to do is have a little movement in the body. And you do see there's some movement in his body similar to his full swing, but because he is quiet with the lower body, he's able to make that work. One last look at the putter from sort of a setup position. If you look at the way this putter is sitting on the ground, the equal amount of heel and toe off the ground. So that means his putter is sitting, absolutely flat on the bottom, which is critical to making sure that your putter is aiming where you think it should be. If you're a player who ends up setting the club either sort of toe up or heel up, the aiming device or line on your putter isn't actually doing its job for you. So make sure your putter fitting is correct, which means this angle here, the lie angle, and the length of your putter must be correct for you in order to get this putter to sit dead flat, which of course as a tour player, you like to think they all have perfectly fit equipment with all the tour vans out there. And that does give them an advantage to be aimed properly and then create a better stroke because of the great fundamentals. One last look at the pitch shot here, and you can see this swing here is same up the plane beautifully, club face in a perfectly square position, feet flat on the ground at impact, still on the ground into the follow through. Much more of an upper body motion. And one last look at the full swing from this angle. Great setup. And like we said with the other views, not as open at impact, not as dynamic. And so he's not going to have that power that some of the players have, because as he comes in, the body just isn't that open. He's very square looking compared to a lot of players. The hips and shoulders are not that open. And that means he's going to rely on some arm speed and hand speed. And the more you rely on that, you can miss the ball right and left. And so that is tougher to control. But in terms of the angles, beautiful. And for a lot of us, this would be a fantastic golf swing in terms of if we were to get this open even coming into impact, we could create some really nice shots because he's on a beautiful plane on the way down. He's just working on rhythm and tempo and timing to make sure the club face is square when he gets into that golf ball. Okay, well, that's going to wrap it up for this video. Kevin Na, what a great win. And he's starting to win each year on tour, which is really fun to see. If it's your first time to the channel, be sure to subscribe. And if you do like the video, please hit that like button, and we'll see you in the next one.